Let's begin with a look at how the markets performed this week. It wasn't particularly great news for energy stocks as the price of Brent crude oil dropped at the international market from $87.61 to Tuesday down $85.42 as at Friday, March 22. WTI crude fell to $80.63 after it rose to $83.77 in the past 3 days. Now natural gas steadies at $1.66 while RBOB gasoline traded at $2.73. To the Nigerian markets now. Transactions on the floor of the stock exchange on Friday, 22nd March 2024 closed the last trading of the week on a positive note. The all-share index appreciated by 0.25%, settling at 104,647.37 from the previous close of 104,387.47. Market capitalization closed at 59.16 trillion naira, an aggregate of 505,187,711 units of shares was traded in 9,574 deals valued at 14.23 billion naira. The market breadth closed on a positive as 34 equities gained while 14 equities declined in share prices. Now to the European stocks, which neared record highs on Friday with British, German and Italian stocks outperforming regional pairs following a slate of dovish cues from major central banks this week. Pan-European Stock 600 index notched its 9th straight weekly gain after logging another intraday all-time high in the early day. Britain's FTSE 100 rose by 0.6% to a one-year high of 7,930 points. German stocks firmed at 0.2% after a survey showed the country's business morale improved in March, beating expectations too. Italy's IBEX 35 firmed at 0.7% as Santander, the Eurozone's second biggest bank by market value, said it was on track to pay shareholders more than €6 billion in dividends and buybacks in 2024. Let's take a look now at how Wall Street performed. The Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped on Friday but clinched its best week of the year after a back-to-back record-setting sessions. The Dow dipped 305.47 points to close at 39,475.90. S&P 500 inched lower by 0.14% to end at 5,234.18, while Nasdaq Composite added 0.16% and closed at 16,428.82 for another record. The Dow was up just shy of 2% for this best week since December. Now the Nasdaq is the outperformer of the three, jumping nearly 2.9%. Apple is in talks to build Google's Gemini artificial intelligence engine into the iPhone, now setting the stage for a blockbuster agreement that would shake up the AI industry. The two companies are in active negotiations to let Apple license Gemini, Google's set of generative AI models, to some new features coming to the iPhone software this year. This is according to sources who shall not be identified because of deliberations also private. Apple also recently held discussions with OpenAI and has considered using its model. Now, the European Union will provide Egypt with a funding package of $8.06 billion from 2024 to 2027. Now, this funding is intended to assist Egypt in stabilizing its economy while reducing its dependence on Russian gas. It also includes a grant to help address the flow of migrants from the region into Europe. The deal includes €5 billion of macrofinance assistance, €1.8 billion of investments, and €600 million in grants over the next 3 years to support Egypt's faltering economy. Staying in Egypt, the central bank on Wednesday cancelled a March 28 meeting of its Monetary Policy Committee, saying it has gone through enough, and its special meeting held on March 6 when it hiked key interest rates by 600 basis points. According to the bank, the interest rate rise was meant to accelerate the monetary tightening process and ensure a decline in underlying inflation. The central bank set its overnight lending rate at 28.25% and its overnight deposit rate at 27.25%, and said it would let the Egyptian pound trade freely. The central bank's next scheduled MPC meeting is set for May 23. Now, Egypt's pound hit a record low against the dollar after the announcement, while Egyptian sovereign dollar bonds rallied. Nigeria's prolonged battle to stabilize its currency is finally bearing fruit, with analysts now forecasting the battered naira could rebound sharply before the end of the year. Analysts at Goldman Sachs Group, Citigroup, and Standard Chartered PLC see the naira advancing as much as 25% against the dollar this year, as jumbo interest rates increases and other steps to attract foreign capital yield results. While the process has been painful, with the currency sliding 70,000 against the greenback to a low of 1,627 earlier this month, the naira has steadied in recent days. Further, the gap between the official and unofficial market rate has narrowed sharply. Nigeria's headline inflation rate increased year-on-year by 1.8 percentage points to 31.7% in February 2024 from 29.9% in January 2024. Now, that's according to the National Bureau of Statistics and represents the highest level of inflation recorded in 28 years. The Bureau disclosed this in its Consumer Price Index report for February 2024, noting that food inflation also increased to 37.92% during the period from 35.41% in January 2024. Côte d'Ivoire will meet the conditions to become a member of Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries following the discovery of important deposits. That's according to the country's Minister of Mines, Petroleum and Energy, Mamadou Sangafowa Coulibaly, at the end of an exchange with the country's group of petroleum professionals. Coulibaly urged the Ivorian petroleum sector to take its full place in the development of the extractive industry. The minister also called on the national private sector to play a major role in ensuring that the wealth is used to benefit the country. According to him, the government wants to make the extractive industry the second pillar of the Ivorian economy after agriculture. Now, NVIDIA's Chief Executive Officer Jensen Huang showed off new chips aimed at extending its company's dominance of artificial intelligence computing, a position that's already made it the world's third most valuable business. A new processor design called Blackwell is multiple times faster at handling the models that underpin AI. That includes the process of developing the technology, a stage known as training, and the running of it, which is termed inference. The Blackwell chips, which are made of 208 billion transistors, will be the basis of new computers and other products being deployed by the world's largest data center operators. A roster that includes Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Oracle. Blackwell-based products will be available later this year. The Federal Reserve held interest rates steady on Wednesday, opting to keep rates highly elevated as progress towards lower inflation has stalled. The move pushes back rate cuts that the central bank expects to make sometime this year, but the Fed stuck to its previous projection of 3 rate cuts by the end of 2024. The Fed funds rate remains between 5.25% and 5.5%, matching its highest level since 2001, I beg your pardon. The decision arrives roughly a week after fresh inflation data showed inflation ticked up in February. The latest sign that progress towards cooling prices had struck a rough patch. Now, inflation has fallen significantly from a peak of 9.1%, but it remains more a percentage point higher than the Fed's target rate of 2%. Social media platform Reddit shares ended its first day of trading in New York up 48%, signaling that investor appetite for initial public offerings of promising yet loss-making companies could be returning. Reddit shares closed 48% above initial offering prices in the company's trading debut on Thursday, valuing the social media platform at more than $9 billion in a closely watched opening. The stock peaked at $57.80 a share, up 70%. Before dropping to $50.44 to close the day. Now, the initial public offering for the San Francisco-based company was first priced at $34 a share, putting its market value at $6.4 billion. The company and its selling shareholders raised $748 million in total. GSE Limited, which operates Africa's biggest stock and bond exchanges, will start trading carbon offsets within 2 months. Now, the Johannesburg-based company in October formed a partnership with Expansive Limited, which provides infrastructure to trade what it calls environmental commodities, such as carbon credits and renewable energy certificates. While South Africa is not the continent's biggest producer of carbon credits, it is the region's largest emitter of greenhouse gases. With the country gradually increasing a carbon tax, the market also offsets is set to surge. The country is also Africa's biggest producer of solar and wind power. The credits are to be initially traded tied to forestry and farming projects that absorb carbon from the atmosphere. Export-Import Bank has officially unveiled its Fund for Export Development in Kigali, Rwanda. FIDO was established to tackle Africa's $110 billion financing gap for intra-African trade, value-added export development, and industrialization. Value chains, with Roundup being the first amongst 15 countries to ratify its establishment agreement. The event was graced by the Prime Minister of the Republic of Rwanda, Dr. Edouard Ngurente, who was accompanied by the President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of Afreximbank, Professor Benedict Orama, Executive Vice Presidents of Afreximbank, and members of the Board of Directors of FIDE, amongst others. The Bank of England has held interest rates steady at 5.25%, but hinted at cuts on the horizon as inflation falls faster than expected. Now, the Monetary Policy Committee voted 8-1 to keep rates steady, with one member voting to cut by 25 basis points to 5%. Now, notably, no members voted for further hikes for the first time in this cycle, after two members favored a quarter-point increase at the previous meeting. Headline inflation slid by more than expected to an annual 3.4% in February, hitting its lowest level since September 2021. The central bank expects the consumer price index to return to its 2% target in the second quarter, as the household energy price cap is once again lowered in April. The Central Bank of Nigeria says it has cleared all valid foreign exchange backlogs. This was disclosed by the bank's acting director, Corporate Communications, Hakama Sidi Ali, on Wednesday. She said it was in fulfilling a key pledge of the CBN Governor Olaimi Cardoso to process an inherited backlog of $7 billion in claims. Now, Sidi Ali noted that the CBN recently concluded the payment of $1.5 billion to settle obligations to bank customers, effectively settling the residual balance of the FX backlog. She also disclosed that independent auditors from Deloitte Consulting meticulously assessed these transactions, ensuring that only legitimate claims were honored. Now, as an exciting reiteration, Zenith Bank PLC has announced the appointment of Dr. Adara Omeji as a Group Managing Director and Chief Executive effective from June 1, 2024. The appointment is pending approval from the Central Bank of Nigeria. She succeeds Dr. Ebenezer Onyeagu, who completes a successful 5-year term on May 31, 2024. Adara Omeji makes history as the first female GMD and CEO in the bank's history, aligning with the bank's tradition of nurturing leaders internally. Dr. Omeji, with almost 30 years of banking experience, including 26 years at Zenith Bank, previously held the position of Deputy Managing Director since October 2016.